The Vox Markets Podcast with Justin Waite. Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy anything based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Welcome to the podcast on Wednesday, the 27th of January 2021. On the podcast today, John Meyer, mining analyst and partner at Altus Anglo, talks about Bluerock Diamonds, Rambler Metals and Mines, Altus Strategies and Anglo Asian Mining. Plus, as always, don't forget, 2 lists I have for you at the end of the podcast. They are the most followed companies on Vox Markets in the last 24 hours and the top 5 most read RNSs too. You can check out these lists at voxmarkets.co.uk. We'll see lots of other content right there on the page. There's videos, there's articles. There's one there on MTI Wireless, one there on Altus Strategies, one there on 88 Energy. And of course, there's the Capital Markets Summit with Paul Hill and some of the big guys of the investing world. There's Justin Stewart, there's Martin Gilbert, David Buick, and Chris Watling. Check that out. And of course, on the front page is our COVID-19 index. I always like checking out who's at the top. It's Gene Drive up 17%. Biggest faller, Avacta down 6.6%. Check that out at voxmarkets.co.uk.
Vox Markets is an online community of investors that runs a free mobile and desktop platform that allows you to track news and updates about any UK-listed company, offering RNS push notifications, detailed charts, pricing data, and much more. Find out more at voxmarkets.co.uk/app.
And joining me on the podcast right now is John Meyer, mining analyst and partner at Altus Anglo. You all right, John?
Yes, good, thank you.
Yeah. Are you really good, though? Are you okay? Because, do you know what? Lockdown is starting to get to me. I've been okay with it, generally. But now I'm almost getting that shouty, I want to end it, get lockdown, get out. It's just, I'm feeling, even though generally I work from home anyway, much of my routine hasn't changed. But it's just small, it's been building up slowly, I think. Just the small things of not going out or going to a restaurant or just going out, and it's slowly getting to me. Is it getting to you at all?
Well, it would be very nice to go out again, but I'm really happy knowing there's a vaccine coming along, and I'm more than happy to wait in line for that vaccine, and just get on with the work that we do. It's a shame the weather's so miserable, and yes, it's frustrating, but knowing that the government is pressing ahead. And also knowing that our government is delivering more vaccines than they are in Europe is actually jolly nice right now.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I did vote for Brexit, and many people argued with me, friends argued with me, and all that stuff. And fair enough, there's pros and cons to every argument. But I did note the AstraZeneca issues. The AstraZeneca CEO is speaking with the EU today because the EU, they haven't even approved it yet, their vaccine. They haven't approved the AstraZeneca vaccine, but they're complaining they're not going to receive as much as they've ordered. And UK hasn't got that problem because we're further down the line because we approved that a while back. That's the problem. When you work with a 27-block state like that, there's a lot of red tape, more than you would have if you're operating under, one government. We're more nimble, aren't we? And so that's the one thing we've done well, I think, the vaccine. But then other people will say, we've had 100,000 deaths in this country. That's higher than any other European country. So, of course, the vaccine is very good. Personally, I haven't really thought about having the vaccine. I'm just, locking down because I know that people need the vaccine. I don't think I need it because I'm quite healthy. I'm not that young, but I don't think it'll affect me, coronavirus. My mates had it and they haven't been affected by it. But, I just think I think they need to put a date, a line in the sand. We say, and I said this on Twitter today, if hospital admissions down by 1,000 a day, which now they're at 3,500, they were at 4,000, they're coming down a bit, and the R rate is below 0.7, March the 1st we should unlock by that time. But if we hit those conditions, nothing else, because by that time there could be another 10 million people vaccinated, and I think then we could actually see our way out of this and we could keep the admissions down because people are vaccinated. But I think we need some kind of line in the sand. I think this government has been a bit slow on many things, apart from the vaccinations,
Well, look, we're not going to get political about this, but the EU has been scandalous in the way that they're talking about trying to restrict vaccines coming into the UK. Mm-hmm. As you say, they haven't even approved the vaccine in Europe yet. But it's so typical of what these guys do. They are so slow, and then, of course, they want it all their own way. Now, during the global financial crisis, the Americans reacted very quickly to restore and recover their economy and the damage that was done. And the Americans are always pretty quick. The EU was about 9 months behind in the stimulus packages they offered, and not only were they a long way behind, but they were very less effective than the Americans. Actually, if we look at China, China is the ultimate in terms of responding very quickly, but that's because they've always got a whole bunch of construction projects already planned and approved, just waiting for the cash. Whereas here in the West, we're still arguing over environmental issues and what projects will go ahead and what won't. I noticed that in the UK, they've given approval and presumably funding for the rail line it's effectively reinstating the rail line from Cambridge to Oxford. Now, that project's been pushed by a number of people over the years. I actually think it's a white elephant project myself, because I just don't think many people want to travel from Cambridge to Oxford. But the fact is, it's a project that's sitting there, and that's why it's suddenly been approved, and it's somewhere where the government can shovel the cash to get people employed and get people digging again. And it's, the benefit of the UK being independent of the EU is that we can move faster and make quicker decisions. And look, we're already seeing it in that we've got, 7 million people vaccinated already, and the EU's barely done anyone.
Yeah, none of this. Listen, there's many things wrong with this government, I know, but the vaccination programme has been good. I was cheering it all the way. I had some sort of people on Twitter saying, "Well, you don't know if it's safe. It's not safe. This government is ridiculous." I thought, no, that's the first thing. We know it's pretty much safe because the phase 3 trials have included tens of thousands of people, when normally phase 3 include a couple of thousand maybe, but not 40,000. So we know it's pretty much safe. It's whether it's effective. That's all. I hands up. I clap that. I applaud that. But I just think we need. What I'm worried about, right, is that psychologically, the lockdown can't go on forever with no end date in sight. People will start to break the rules, especially if we see hospital admissions come down, the R rate come down. So the government need to get a handle on this, because there will be protests, riots, people just flagrantly breaking the rules if we at certain targets we hit. The NHS is not under pressure and nothing's being done. And that's what I'm worried about. So they need to get ahead of it and say, listen, we need to have an end date in sight. If we get to this target, we know it's safe, to get back out. Vaccinations are still going strong. Because another 10, 15 million could be vaccinated by the end of March. So that'll help a heck of a lot. But yeah, I think we need to line the sand here for businesses, for people's mental health, everything. But anyway, let's talk about the markets. The markets are looking forward as always, John. Markets look forward 6-12 months. They think this is going to be opened and back to normal-ish. Well, I said back to normal. That's the old new normal. But resource companies are rallying, aren't they?
Yeah, look, I'm looking forward to the new normal. And the one thing I feel very confident in this uncertain world of ours, is that the demand for metals, particularly the battery metals that are going to go into the electric vehicles, is going to be very strong this year. I think, yes, there's going to be a few bumps on the road. We've got lockdowns going on in China at the moment. There's probably more coronavirus in China than they're admitting to. We've heard anecdotally that certain people trying to buy things from rag trade type factories in China are struggling because some of those factories have been shut down. We know that the automotive manufacturers have got problems getting chips for the electronics for their vehicles. So that's another bump in the road. Mm-hmm. But having said all that, the battery factories are all ramping up in terms of production. They're all getting better at producing the batteries, which is really important, because you do not want to buy a car with a bad batch of batteries in it. Otherwise, you might find it's getting a bit warmer under your seat than you'd imagined. So, no, the health and safety is incredibly important for these things. But we are seeing strong demand, and we're wondering where the metal's going to come from.
Yeah. Well, won't it be a case of, like I said, never bet against human innovation, just techniques and technology would get better, and for example, you just be able to dig further, cheaper, for lower grades, whatever. I mean, or they'll find alternatives. Is that the case?
Yeah, well, sometimes you find alternatives, but it's actually quite difficult because a lot of the alternatives have already been found, and the metals that we see that are being used are the sort of the optimum and the cheapest way of doing things. If you look at auto catalysts, for example, they've been improving and refining on those auto catalysts for many years, and yet the palladium price is sky high. The platinum price is following it because platinum is used for fuel cells. Rhodium and ruthenium prices are also pretty high because they are used for reforming hydrogen, which will go into those fuel cells. And there's quite a big move going on in the world for electrical and heat generation using fuel cells in distributed power systems. So if you look at Ceres Power and ITM Power, those companies are doing well on the back of that, and that's good. We know that copper is going to be in huge demand, and we also know that there's a bit more trouble with the coronavirus in Latin America, and that looks likely to continue to impact copper supplies out of that region. So not only are we going to have strong demand for all these electric vehicles and for cabling up these electric vehicles, but we've also got some supply issues going on in the world as well.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, well, what's the news then on specific companies, John? Who's releasing? I mean, you mentioned a big diamond. Let's start with diamonds, Arigo's best friend. There we are.
Yes, Bluerock recovered a 14-carat diamond last year, quite late last year. I think it was November or December. And they sold that for $167,000. So that's a very nice price for that stone. What was that, $11,000 a carat? So what the nice thing is, it shows they're back into an area of the mine that produces these better quality stones, and we look forward to more of that coming out, because that adds significantly to the value of the parcels of carats that they're selling. And I think this is going to be a transformational year for Bluerock. Again, there'll be some bumps in the road, but I really think as a mine they'll start heading up to this 1 million tons a year mining rate. And I think by the end of the year, we'll be running at that rate, and I think that the business will be entirely transformed. Yeah,
cool. Bluerock Diamond. I don't know much about diamonds. Are you au fait with diamonds? Obviously, you're a lot more than me. But as a resource, what's your thoughts on diamonds? What's the market like?
The market got hit really hard when everything locked down because people couldn't go to jewelry stores. People do buy diamonds online, but not so much. I mean, it's something that it's such a personal purchase. People like to go into a shop and buy the diamond in that shop, and know a bit about it and where it came from and its provenance and all of that. So, but at some point, well, the market is certainly recovering. De Beers and Alrosa, which is the big Russian diamond company, both cut sales massively. In order to maintain diamond prices, which is good. Prices still slipped, but they've recovered very nicely. So I see that Bluerock will benefit not just from the recovery in prices, but also from the increase in production. So quite happy about that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. What's next? You mentioned was it Rambler? Go on.
Yes, Rambler is interesting because it's producing copper and gold. I think we've talked quite a lot about copper over the years, and in that it's not only is it used in a lot of stimulus projects, but particularly for the recabling of our cities, so that we can all charge our new electric vehicles on every available lamppost and if you're lucky enough in your private driveway. But they also produce gold, which is very handy. Because I think there's, with all the money printing going on in the world, there has to be a degree of additional inflation. And whilst the gold price has done quite a lot over the last 6 months, the price, is quite well supported. It's giving very good margins for anyone producing gold at the current level, and so that's very nice for these sorts of guys. So Rambler produced a production results and outlook statement. So again, this is another business that's been transformed They struggled a bit last year, but a new man's gone in, Toby Bradbury, and he's certainly turning that around. So they produced 14,500 tons of concentrate, giving them 3,700 tons of copper last year. We see these numbers going up quite a lot.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Marvellous stuff. And next one you mentioned was Altus Strategies, ALS. And I've got to say, they came on the podcast and they were chatting about lots of stuff. And then initially, there's a while back, and the market cap was around 20 million. That's all it was. But then I thought, whoa, that's quite cheap. And obviously, a lot of other people did, because not long after that, people said, I listened to Altus on the podcast, and I bought some shares. And wow, I didn't. I missed out on that rise, but they've jumped a bit now. But still interesting, yeah.
Yeah, well, Justin, you're a market mover by the sounds of things.
Yeah, I'm a market stall mover, generally, part-time.
That would be it.
Yeah.
But the metallurgical results from on assays that they've taken from this project at Tabacorol, they returned 93 to 97% gold recoveries, and that's very nice, because it's really important to double check how much gold you're actually going to get out of the rock once you've mined it out of the ground. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about nearly 1 million ounces of gold, grading just over a gram a ton. And that's a nice project. So quite good value in there. Market cap £63 million. So I think there's a bit of a way to go on that one.
Yeah, marvellous stuff. In fact, they're on the podcast. Time does fly. July. Look at the chart, right, from July. It's really annoying. And when you listen to companies, and you must have companies obviously pitched to you quite a bit, and then you just talk about it, and that's quite cheap. And then on the 22nd of July, then they announced the PAE for the Diba Gold project in Mali, 81 million. And literally it shot up on that a couple of days later. So they came on just before that. But it went from 32 pence, it was at, and it went to 84 pence on that bit of news. So and then it came back down to 40 pence, and it's gone back up now. It's back at 89 pence. So yeah, it's all good. Marvellous. And you mentioned also something about Anglo Asian, AAZ. Something.
Yes, Anglo Asian. They've had a number of gold mines restored to them. These are mining projects that were seized by the other side in the occupied territories, and since Azerbaijan has pushed the Armenian occupiers back, it's then regained these projects and handed them over to Anglo Asian Mining, and one of these includes the Zod gold mine, which is pretty significant. Well, it's not just gold; it's copper. Pretty significant mine. So getting these assets back into the fold is very good news for Anglo Asian. And yes, I think there's going to be a lot of value realizable out of that. So, one deposit's got 275,000 tons of copper and 3,200 tons of molybdenum in it. So there's real value in there, and I think regaining these projects is transformational for Anglo Asian. And this is on the top of Anglo Asian's discovery of yet another project. Or another gold prospect right next to their Gedebek mine in Azerbaijan. So I think things are all going quite well there.
I'm seeing the chart of gold. It's coming into a good support level here. There's 1800. It's bounced off before, but it's just rolling down on that. I think it'll bounce along that level before it takes another level up again straight up. So I think it's a good level because it's when gold is rallying a bit, the obviously associated stocks rally as well. But I don't know what the stocks are at the moment. But gold itself, it's actually a good support level at 1800.
Well, I think a lot of gold miners are going to produce very good quality earnings over the next few years because local currencies have been low, the oil price has been low, and the gold price is high. So there's a triple whammy there for most of these companies in terms of leverage for earnings. So I think we're going to see a lot of good news coming out of these businesses going forwards, and nice to see Anglo Asian benefiting there.
Yeah, marvellous stuff. John, thanks very much, fella. And by the way, how many stocks do you hold currently in your portfolio?
Well, I lightened my portfolio a little while ago,
Did you?
and I'm looking to buy back into the market again. So
I thought you were long-term. I thought you were a long-term holder.
My advice is to buy the dips, frankly.
I thought you were a long-term investor, John, not a dirty trader.
Well, I'm a very nervous investor, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, then. So you're nervous investor. Basically, you don't want to be a trader, but you're a bit nervous. Yeah, okay.
No, look, I would love to. I'd love to be a day trader. I'm just not allowed to do anything like that.
No, don't day trade. There's very few people that make money day trading. It's a fallacy, honestly. It really is. And I realise that, in fact, if you buy a decent company at a decent price, hold on to it, and in fact, buy the dips. Top up on the dips, because if you want multiple returns of your money, buy a good company at a good price and just hold on, you know. If you look at all the trading sites, pretty much, they all say over 70% of people lose money trading. That stat is worth looking at and paying attention to. Basically, 3 out of 4 people lose money. Unless you're a very good trader, most people lose money. So investing is the way forward. It's hard to tell the daily fluctuation of any price, share price, but over the longer term, a company generating real value, the share price will go up, you know. So play the odds. Play the odds, man. You know what I'm saying?
I know you're right, but if you see a stock going bananas, it's always worth taking a bit of profit.
Which one? So you like to say which stock? Which stock?
Very important for investors to remember to take a little bit off the table when the market is very strong, and then to buy the dips. And I think that's a strategy that I think works well. So
if it's a resource company with no revenue, pre-revenue, yes. Because they are pop and drop, pretty much. They do that a lot because, of course, they release news that will show future potential of earnings, but they're not there yet. They're probably 5 years away, if they get there at all, because, of course, many resource companies never even get to produce. But I'm talking about companies that are generating cash. Like something like Anglo Asian that's generating real cash, for example. I just keep topping up. And I said, if you've done that, you've done a 20 bagger over the last couple of years, 5-6 years, wouldn't you?
Well, I have a good friend who's been buying and selling Anglo Asian for many years, and he said to me, this was quite a while ago, he'd made £1 million out of it must have been over about a 10-year period.
Yeah.
So if you get to know these companies and you trade them, I think you can do extraordinarily well, particularly when you find something that's unloved and undervalued. And there's still a lot of value for most of these junior mining companies if you consider that their margins are going to be hugely enhanced by rising metals prices.
Yeah. And,
I think, okay, copper's hovering around $8,000 a ton, and some people think that it's made most of its move. But now I actually think I think copper is going to be so popular in the world that the price is more than likely to push through $10,000 a ton, maybe later this year. And again, the improvement on margins will be extraordinary. So if you look at the biggest pure copper producer in the world, which is Antofagasta, it trades at multiples that are higher than Rio Tinto and BHP, who you could argue have better quality of earnings from the diversification of their portfolios. But the big institutions want to own copper.
Yeah. One thing I've learned as well about the markets, they always overbuy, they always oversell, So when you think a move's been made, generally it's not halfway made. And like we see that with some of the stocks at the moment, they're really hot and hyped. When people are saying, oh, it's way overvalued, all of a sudden it goes up further and further. And they go, well, I've seen, for example, Tesla. There are brokers, right, who kept calling Tesla a sell at like $500, $400. And now they're saying it's a buy at $800. And then, what are you talking about, you maniacs? You have no idea what you're doing. It's like, and so we realise that, it's almost like, with the start of a move, generally, people think that's it, but it's generally the start of a move. Like copper, in fact, let's be honest, they should call it copula. It's going to get popular, because it is. It's going to be in everything. There's going to be no lack of demand for copper. It's going to be in everything, isn't it?
Completely, and it's not just copper. I mean, it's going to be a whole range of metals. Anything, but I feel particularly safe with anything that relates to electric vehicles and battery technology. And I'm looking at a chart here of Bushveld Minerals, and it's just under 20p. And I think this is going to be an extraordinary company going forwards if the utilities start to take up vanadium redox flow batteries. Which I think are going to be really important for the stability of our our electrical grid in the UK and elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Marvellous stuff. John, thanks for that, fella, and we'll speak you next weeky.
Thank you, Justin.
Okay, it's time for the top 5 most followed companies on Vox Markets in the last 24 hours. At 5, Sabian Technology, up 9.4%, 0.145, of course, dropped off a cliff after it's relisted, or readmitted to AIM. The takeover thing was off. At 4, Trackwise Designs, up 6%. I released a video on those yesterday. Because they had a cracking update. Cracking a trading update for end of the year. Revenue up 110%, despite COVID, which was locked down. But they managed to, sort of major on revenues being lower than expected. I thought, what? Up 110%? You've got a deal with an EV manufacturer that's worth 38 million. You are in the EV space. You've got proprietary, IP. And there's never been more interest in your product, and yet you manage to, put that RNS out and knock the share price by 16%. Luckily, it's people are looking into it now and realising it's a good company, and it's going to do well, hopefully. And the share price is up 6% at £3. Okay, GS Technologies is up 20% today, 1.2 pence. At 2, Marshall Capital down 4.29, 3.3 pence. And at 1, Applied Graphene Materials down 26%. I think they're placing, didn't they? Their AGM is ticker there. I saw that on, one of the companies in placing. Anyway, top 5 most liked or most read RNSs are as follows. At 5, EQ Tech, planning approval secured for Billingham project. At 4, interim results, Vast Resources. At 3, 4D Pharma Holdings and Company. At 2, Remote Monitored Systems, notice of general meeting. At 1, Tiziana Life Sciences, Tiziana files F3 statement with US SEC. That's it for the podcast. Thanks for listening. Muchos appreciated.
The Vox Markets Podcast with Justin Waite. Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy anything based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.